Welcome once again to Garden America. Yes, we are back. The boys are back in town, actually back in studio. Welcome to your weekend. I'm Brian Main, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox. And I say back in the studio because we're still getting a lot of rave reviews from last week's show from John's library. We pulled it off without much of a hitch. I think we did a pretty good job, a good experiment. And we'll take that and perhaps later on do some more shows outside the studio, maybe outside at some popular places. But good morning. Welcome, John. Nice library, nice home. Thank you for having us. And,
it was fun.
Yeah,
we're not taking applications for library cards any longer.
See, that was my next question. We could have a Garden America library card, and then you could set up a schedule people to come by, maybe 4 at a time, tour the library, take some books out, but they have to have that card.
I don't know about you, Brian, but I just felt smarter being there.
Oh, I took away a lot of knowledge. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just being in that library, I just felt like I was a smarter person.
Or you could maybe act like you're smarter.
It definitely was acting because I don't think I was any smarter.
People
That's because you could easily look up any questions.
Exactly.
But people were very detail-oriented. Like Kevin said, you need to fill in the top shelf there, John. Maybe even fake books, just kind of fill it in.
Yeah.
So you can tell people were really looking around.
Well, that made me wonder about the shots that we had in the show, because when you walk in, the library's jammed with books, right?
Yeah.
And for somebody to notice or to say, you're missing something.
I think it is just the right size. It's cozy. I would love to work in there. This is where the newsletter comes from.
Yeah.
I mentioned that last week. It emulates
what he gets
from that
inspired.
computer in that library. And it's and you have a nice view of the driveway.
I think it's
right there.
Of the driveway.
Nice view of the driveway's right there.
Yeah,
you
soon to be planted out.
right?
What I said, emulate. See,
You did say emulate.
that's to copy somebody or be like them.
Yeah. And I know how particular you are
and
with your words.
I speak fast sometimes, so sometimes it just comes out. The brain says, "Wait, I'm not done formulating that word."
I
yet.
catch everything though.
I do too, and I'm glad you caught that. So we are back in studio. Questions, comments. Now we have a guest today that's calling in from Ireland, Tiger.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that so much fun? I mean, just to be able to have the ability to do the show kind of on an international level. But Erin Bunting is going to be calling from Northern Ireland, and we're going to be talking about edible flowers today, which is kind of fun and neat because, we always talk about vegetables and herbs and shrubs and trees, but there's a lot of flowers out there that are edible.
Well, don't you think we should have a deer in studio then to talk about that?
Yeah, on their favorite ones.
And people are going to wonder about the flowers and what we have in studio, the leaves and the material this morning in studio.
Yeah, so I think maybe we'll start talking about those after the interview because John took a little venture up to the Huntington Botanical Gardens up there in Pasadena. Pasadena, right? Yeah. And they had their annual plant sale, John, right?
Is it Pasadena or San Marino?
Okay, well, Pasadena is inland east, right?
Well, it's right next to Pasadena.
Okay.
Is that what it is?
How about we say this, the greater Los Angeles area? Is that generalized enough?
That covers a lot.
That covers everything.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Huntington has a yearly plant sale, and it's so popular that you have to make a reservation, a timed reservation on when you want to go.
And you say it's once a year?
Once a year, yeah. And they had thousands of plants, but I think they might even be sold out for this weekend. And the sale goes through Sunday. You could go online and see if you can still get in, but you can get into the gardens, but not necessarily the plant sale. But a lot of plants that you just don't normally find are plants that are harder to find.
Now, what's behind me? It's one of your plants there, John.
A Matilaha poppy. Tiger's doing some landscape work up at our house, and I mentioned to him we wanted the Matilaha poppy, and I know they're kind of hard to find, and for a 1-gallon plant, I thought that was a nice plant.
It's excellent.
So
yeah,
and it even has some flower buds on it, I think.
Yeah.
Romnea coulteri, for those of you that are Latin inclined.
And for those of you that are not, it's called the fried eggplant because the flower looks as if you had just dropped a what would that be, an over easy? No, sunny side up.
Sunny
side up
right.
Egg that's what the flower looks like.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And then I got a flame. No, what's it called? Flamethrower.
Flamethrower redbud.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing, if you look at that, Tiger, you can see it's been grafted.
Right. I was noticing.
There's some grafted varieties of redbuds out there. As a matter of fact, our favorite redbud right now, my wife's favorite one, is one that we got from you, which was Ruby Falls.
Right. That's a really
which is
neat one.
kind of a weeping, twisted, red-leafed one, a redbud. But this one is Flamethrower, has autumn colors all spring and summer on the leaves. So my wife wasn't too excited about having autumn colors in the spring and summer, but I
See,
like it.
I think that would be great if you had an area in your yard, garden,
Yeah.
whatever, with something like that. Hey, it's fall all year.
I bought probably triple the amount of plants that I have in here. Another redbud I got was one called Rising Sun,
Ooh.
which is
Never heard of that
has chartreuse leaves.
one. Ooh.
So I have to think where I'm going to place those now.
It's
Tiger's landscape design.
with the leaves, you always have to make some contrast, right?
Right.
That's how it
Right.
stands out.
Right.
So that's
yeah,
why you gotta
otherwise you
look at
just got green, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then there was I had never heard of Ned Kelly, but there's a
I know.
grevillea. They had a great selection of Australian plants and a lot of different grevilleas, but I just liked this one because it was in bloom. And you were telling me a little bit about Ned Kelly.
I want to say to our listeners right now, anybody listening, writing on Facebook, see if you can know who Ned Kelly was. Because
those on
I knew the
Facebook.
name right away.
Tell us the
but
history of Ned Kelly.
John and Brian didn't know who Ned Kelly was.
I thought
at
it
all.
was Emmett Kelly's brother.
Oh, don't be! You're such a clown.
No,
I
that
knew
a
the
clown?
name,
I
but
don't know who Emmett Kelly is.
Emmett Kelly.
No.
Yeah, he was a
Okay.
famous clown.
Yeah, famous. There's paintings of him too, as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
Didn't Red Skelton do paintings of
Yeah.
Emmett Kelly?
Right.
Yeah.
So what are we asking? We're
Quote of the week. Yeah.
We're asking our viewers on Facebook.
who Ned Kelly
yeah,
was.
tell us the history of Ned Kelly.
Yes.
Yeah, we should do the quote of the week. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you
And
have
that would be
John?
that would be you, John.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
now?
we're gonna have a call in from Ireland, so we got to get ready for that.
all right. Well, I guess with our guest from Ireland, we're going to be talking food, right?
Yes.
So,
Hope so.
I picked this quote from Daniel Webster,
Yes.
and
Danny, what does Danny have to say?
he said, "Let us not forget that the cultivation of the earth is the most important labor of man. When tillage begins, other arts will follow. The farmers, therefore, are the founders of civilization."
It's that tillage thing.
I think it's that whole food thing.
Yeah, it
You,
is.
you
food.
can't have art if you don't eat.
That's true.
Let's see here. Oh,
All right.
Gina is on Facebook talking about you.
Yeah,
Dad.
I liked her comment. She's talking about skipping spring and going straight to summer, and I think she said she's okay with that. And I'm like, what? Spring's the best time.
Idaho has, at least Boise, has got some weird weather. You can have, last time we went there was in May, or last year, I should say, we went in May because we were there in December too. But there was snow all around in May.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I think they skipped summer.
Hey, Kevin, my buddy Kevin says that he thinks that Mick Jagger did a movie about Ned.
oh yeah,
Maybe, yeah.
yeah.
Really?
Sounds about right. Maybe. Yeah.
Ned Kelly. He sounds like he
Well,
sounds like a old Western guy.
Yeah, but
Oh, Ned
grevilleas are Australian natives, right?
Right.
So I
Right.
mean, it makes perfect sense with the name Ned Kelly.
Sure.
And I mean, they're really cool flowers, grevilleas. I mean, they're right up there with protea and leucodendrons in terms of
Right.
the uniqueness of the flower.
I did get some protea too at the sale, and protea also come from Africa, a lot of African proteas. The other class of plants that just fascinates me are hakeas.
Oh yeah,
And hakeas are drought-tolerant plants, also native to Australia, but the strangest leaf shapes and then some cool flowers in some of them. I forget which one that was that I brought in.
yeah. You
but
said you brought one of those in too.
yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then that iris you probably know, right?
No,
but-
I don't know it.
But it looked like a Maria,
You're right.
but the flower is a lot more interesting to me.
Way more.
than-
All right.
Hey, that would be our guest.
Oh,
So what we're going to do here as the phone rings is why don't you guys talk just for a second here?
All right.
I'll pick up the phone, then we'll go to a break.
Sweet. Yeah, no, it looks exactly like a Morea. So what's the common name for Morea? There's deity Morea, Deity Morea, but it's called
butterfly iris, African iris.
yeah, African iris.
Is that what you're thinking of?
Yes,
African iris.
African iris.
Okay, we're going to take a break. Erin is on the phone.
All right.
When we return from our Biz Talk radio break and our short Facebook Live break, we'll bring Erin on. We're going to be talking about edibles. So thank you for joining us. This is Garden America. Happy weekend. I'm Brian Main, Tiger Palafox, John Bagnasco. Do stay with us, and a happy weekend to you. Okay, we are back. It is Garden America on your weekend. This is being recorded on Saturday from the iHeart Media and Entertainment Studio, San Diego, California. And our guest is ready. Erin is with us, Tiger, and this should be interesting. It's been a while since we had somebody call in from Europe or the international hotline.
Yeah, I know. And I just want to start off by saying thank you to Erin for calling us, because normally we call our guests out, but because of the studio restrictions, it's tough for us to sometimes make international calls. But when they can call us, it's a lot of fun because we get to expand our reach into other areas. Erin Bunting is a co-author of a book called The Edible Flower, and she lives in Northern Ireland, on a like little farm with her co-author Joe. And Erin is more of the cook, I think, and then Joe is more of the farmer. But Erin, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Oh, thank you so much for that introduction. Yes, and that is right. Yes, we live on a little 7-acre small holding just south of Belfast in Northern Ireland. And I'm more of a cook, and Joe is more of the grower. But we both dabble in both, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but it's perfect because I'm sure she can enjoy all that you're making, and then you can enjoy all that she's growing. So,
it's a really good partnership in that way, for sure.
Yeah. How is the weather in your area at the moment?
Well, my area is pretty. It's been a wet and not very warm spring, I would say here, but that's not the same in some parts of Europe. It's really hot at the moment. But yeah, up here in the north of Europe, we are still experiencing that kind of slightly chilly spring weather. So.
And is that normal?
Hopefully we've had the last frost, but we're not sure yet, so we'll see.
And is that normal, or is it more cold than usual?
Yeah, no, it's not been as good as spring as usual. Everything's a little bit behind here. Okay. We are about to start. We run a community-supported agriculture scheme, as well as writing about and cooking food. So we have a veg box scheme that runs through the summer, and it starts next week. It starts at the beginning of May. And we are definitely feeling that it is a bit behind where we usually are in terms of growing the produce. So we'll be making up with lots of greens in the first few boxes for sure.
I know. What do they call those here in the States? CSA boxes, John? Is that what they're called? Those community co-op garden boxes that you get like once a week or once a month. You can always know when the garden has not fully ripened yet because they just fill it with chard and lettuces. And
there'll be a lot of chard and probably even some nettles in our first box. We do a bit of foraging as well for our members. So yeah, definitely it'll be lots of chard and lots of herbs and quite a lot of salad. Yeah. But it's okay. It rebalances later in the year when the tomatoes and cucumbers and carrots and things come into full flow.
I don't know if this hit, probably not where you are as much as it is us, but the other thing that was real popular for the boxes lately was eggs, because eggs became so high priced here.
Expensive, right?
Yeah, and so a lot of these urban farms also have chickens, and so they started putting like eggs into the little boxes for people too, which was great because eggs were like becoming the price of avocados here. So it's always fun put a little bit of different stuff in there, right? Surprise your members.
Yeah, I have a few things that are we don't actually, we have a couple of chickens that we just keep for ourselves. The legislation around chickens here is quite strict. So if you want to have chickens eggs that you're selling, you have to be like certified in lots of different ways. So we haven't done that yet. We have some good other small farms near us that do great eggs, and we've thought in the past that it would be quite good to do a collaboration with them actually.
Nice.
Have some eggs in the boxes.
Yeah, great stuff. So, well, let's chat a little bit about our topic today, which is edible flowers. Speaking of chickens who eat all of the flowers, right?
Yeah.
Edible flowers. You and your partner wrote a book. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, loads of reasons. It's almost too hard to start. We've been thinking about writing a book for a while. We run this small holding, and we have a veg box team, and we also run lots of supper clubs, sort of like pop-up dining events. And there's a real like close connection between the farm or the garden and the kitchen, and we're really interested in that kind of aspect of connecting those two things. So we've been thinking for a while about writing a book, and actually we'd originally thought we'd write something more general about vegetable growing, and then connecting it to what the dishes that we cook and the recipes that we share with our CSA members. But actually, while we were thinking about that, the publisher who ended up publishing our book, Lawrence King, an editor approached us. Actually, they felt there was a gap in the market for a book that looked at edible flowers and then recipes, how to grow them, and then the recipes. So they approached us, and it just felt like a really good fit for us. We were already growing a lot of edible flowers. I cook with edible flowers all the time. Our business is called The Edible Flower because all food, really, almost all food ultimately comes from flowering plants. So it just felt like a really good fit. And actually, it was great writing a book with a more narrow focus than we'd originally anticipated, because we ended up writing a lot of words, and we were very lucky because the publisher increased the size of the book to fit all the words in. So I think if we'd had an even wider topic, we would have written more, and maybe that wouldn't have been so good. So yeah, it was good to have something to focus on, and also because I think edible flowers is a really interesting topic for people. It's sort of something a bit different from what people might be doing already. There's a real way, it's a really accessible way, I think, to get into growing food. If you're a gardener who is more focused on maybe growing ornamentals, you probably already are growing lots of these ornamentals in your garden, and then there's crossover to using them. And also, I think if you're new to growing, or maybe have a small growing space in a city, or you're in a flat and only have a window box or something like that, this is a good way to get into growing a little bit of your food and still having a really beautiful space, or some beautiful plants to look at as well.
Well, I mean, so I just posted a link for people to connect to your book on Amazon. With it is a picture of the cover. And forget about the edible idea of it for a second. Just that photo of, the different meals that you have on the cover of your book and the flowers in them. It just brings so much color, so much life to the food. And then to think that, you just eat those little flowers on top of it too, and they actually maybe add some flavor, maybe they add some nutrition, whatever. But just being able to think oh, I have this salad. Normally, you have a salad that's got green leaves in it. You might spruce it up with some carrots, some onions, maybe some other little things. But being able to put some purples in there, some reds in there, some oranges in there as well, just makes it that more appetizing to look at. And if you're a person that's entertaining guests, I think it also just impresses your guest to be able to be like, wow, this is not just a normal salad. Hey, Erin, in about a minute, we're going to have to take a little break just to be able to pause for some commercials. But when we get back from the break, I do want to talk to you, because in the book, they talk about edible flowers. And I think a lot of people wonder, why would I just want to include this? And aside from being pretty, like I just said, there's actually a lot more benefits to edible flowers than people even know. So when we get back from break, we're going to keep chatting with Erin Bunting and the edible flower.
Yeah, and do stay with us, obviously. Those on Biz Talk Radio, this break is for you. And those on Facebook Live, questions, comments for one of us, or, of course, Erin, feel free right there on the comment section to the right-hand side of our Facebook page. We will take a break, and again, this is for Biz Talk Radio, back after these messages. And again, thank you for tuning in. This is Garden America on your weekend. Okay, we have returned from the break. Thank you to those on Biz Talk Radio. I want to thank Stephanie keeping us on the air each and every week with the Garden America Show replays on Biz Talk Radio. You can also go to Alexa, ask her to play the Garden America Show. We've got a YouTube channel, I should say, Garden America Radio Show, Spotify, Google, streaming, the iHeartMedia platform. So we are just about everywhere. And also be sure to go to our website, gardenamerica.com. If you could do that at least a few times a week, we'd appreciate that. So, as Tiger mentioned, calling all the way from Ireland. Yes, John?
I was just going to say, is there any truth to the rumor that Erin is using Google Translate to understand Tiger's questions?
Hey, Erin, I speak perfect English, right?
We are back with you, Erin.
Hi.
Oh,
there she is.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, now we hear you.
Yes.
So you want me to talk? Will I answer Tiger's question now? Is that good?
Yes,
Yeah, go
definitely.
ahead.
Yeah. So, before the break, I had said, what are some benefits to the edible flowers aside from just looking pretty, right?
Well, I mean, I feel like the most important benefit to them is the flavor. I mean, I'm always coming from things from a kind of cook's perspective. So how they can enhance or make a dish taste more delicious. And like edible flowers, have some really unique flavors that you won't find anywhere else. And I often think about using them as the way you would use a herb or a spice. If we're king cooks, we're probably all using herbs and spices in our garden, in our cooking all the time. And lots of edible flowers have kind of, similar properties. They're going to add loads of interesting flavors. And I mean, I guess just to pick out a few that have really pack a punch and have loads of different flavors, I would say lavender, amazing kind of almost mentholy, eucalyptus-y type flavor, but just with a bit kind of more floral notes. It has quite a similar flavor profile to rosemary, so I use it in lots of dishes where I would use rosemary as an alternative, and it brings this kind of extra floral note. So it works really well, especially if you're cooking kind of Middle Eastern style dishes and things like that as well. So it's got an amazing flavor. Can be used. Rose, again, another kind of one that would be used lots in Middle Eastern cooking as well. But it can bring this kind of real sort of soft Turkish delighty type flavor that is just it's so beautiful in desserts, but also when it's used in kind of spice mixes with chicken, or we use it in a meringue dish with, it has this lovely sort of lovely sort of soft floralness. So that's a great one as well. And then things like elderflower, they have that kind of lovely kind of musky aroma as well. That's kind of completely unique flavor. I always think elderflower, it's like nothing else. And that's amazing. I think, again, both in sweet and savory dishes, elderflower quite often is, you think about it as being sweet because you drink it maybe in an elderflower cordial. But it's amazing taking elderflowers and putting them in tempura batter and frying them, and then we would serve them in a salad with blue cheese and a little bit of honey and some peppery leaves. So
Wow.
I think there's loads of interesting flavors within edible flowers. That you can be using magnolia, which is just out now here. Maybe, I don't know whether it's probably, I don't know what the season would be in California, but it's just in Europe, or certainly in Northern Europe, we're just coming to the end of magnolia flower season. But it has this amazing kind of gingery cardamom flavor, and we like to pickle it to make a delicious kind of pickle that is, so beautiful with kind of Asian food. And also we make it into a syrup and do kind of magnolia flower Moscow mules, so using that kind of gingery cardamom flavor in a cocktail. So yeah, there's just so much opportunity to use these flowers for flavor as well as how beautiful they are.
I never heard of the magnolia flowers being used in cooking. That's great. Hey, Erin, I had a quick question. You mentioned roses, and being a rosarian, I'm familiar with some breeding work that's going on in Europe. I don't know if you are, but they're actually breeding roses to have different flavors in the flowers. For instance, maybe a stronger lemon flavor, or different types. Have you heard about that yet?
I have not heard about that, but that is fascinating. Yeah, I think that sounds so interesting, and I can imagine that would be just open up a whole new interesting world, because there is so many. I do think with all these flowers, there's like quite a lot of diversity, within the flower. You
Right,
say, I like
right.
this flower, but actually, like magnolias are a good example. Dahlias are a good example as well. Like when they're all edible, but when you taste them, they have different, different properties. So different flavor profiles. So yeah, that's really interesting.
So let me ask you, Erin, in terms of the flowers also. Are they like a fruit where there is a ripe, portion? Like, meaning, do you wait a certain time? I mean, are they better when they're budded up and they're more concentrated, or are they better after they've opened and been open for a while? Like, is it kind of like a tomato or other fruit that there is a ripe period?
Yeah, that's so interesting. I would say it varies from flower to flower. So, for example, elderflower, which I was talking about, whenever I'm picking elderflower, they have like kind of, these big umbels with lots of little flowers on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be trying to pick the ones where on that kind of head of elderflower, like they were 3/4 open, and maybe the other quarter was still in bud. So you're kind of wanting lots of flowers are best, especially if you're using them for flavor, mostly for flavor, are best when they're just opening, just sort of the flavor is still sort of more concentrate. And I think there's an element where, things haven't started to go over. You don't really want to be cooking with anything that's starting to go kind of a little bit brown and stuff. And so if you're picking a kind of ahead of something and some of the flowers are kind of beyond, then that could kind of taint the flavor of what you're cooking. So I find most things are best just as they're opening. And there is some theories around kind of pollination and stuff as well, where the flowers are better before they're pollinated. That the kind of properties can change slightly after that kind of pollination has happened. I actually haven't particularly experienced it myself, but there definitely is some sort of discussions about that kind of in the literature around eating edible flowers and stuff as well. So, but yeah, I mean, I would basically say look for something that looks as good as it possibly can, like is still kind of fresh looking, and also the smell as well is a good indicator. Give what you're picking a sniff, and if it smells good, then it's probably going to be good in your cooking.
Okay.
Obviously, if it's an edible flower, I'm not saying go out and smell all flowers and just bake them. Make sure that you know what you're eating is edible.
Yeah, that's a good disclaimer, is that not all flowers are edible. So, buy your book to maybe learn a little bit about what some are edible. Now, also, aside from the flavor, there's some benefits to flowers in a health aspect as well, because I mean, they talk about eat the rainbow as a discussion, right? Don't just eat one color, because different colored plants and flowers and fruit carry different properties and vitamins and minerals. And flowers are a big part of that. So, are there some flowers out there that are very beneficial health-wise?
Well, I mean, I would like to say I'm not a herbalist or a nutritionist, and I would generally just follow the rule of like eating as wide a variety in your diet as possible. So there's definitely some flowers that are used lots in herbal medicine, and like for example, hawthorn flowers, which we would use here. I don't know, is that a common plant in the U.S., hawthorn?
Do you know which hawthorn she's talking about, John?
I think she's talking about Crataegus, not Raphiolepis.
Okay.
Crataegus, Crataegus mono.
So that would be in the cooler parts of the U.S., not the hot southern parts.
Yeah, so it's used a lot in hedging here, and actually, when I was reading about it, it's actually a sacred tree in Ireland, so it's kind of part of our like long history, and we would see that as kind of lots of them would be left in fields and not cut down and things because people see that they have kind of a connection to the other world. They're sort of a kind of part of our folklore here, but they have this lovely kind of almondy flavor. The blossom, and there's quite a strong connection actually with like heart medicine within. It's actually used, the flowers and the berries are actually used in, or some of the compounds in them have been isolated and are used in heart medication. So it's kind of a heart opening flower. And then things like calendula.
Hey, stuff, Erin, before you keep going, we're going to have to take another little break, but when we get back, we'll finish chatting with Erin Bunting in the edible flower.
Yes, indeed. It is break time for our great sponsors and those who support this show, Garden America on Biz Talk Radio. And again, for those on Facebook Live, any questions, just let us know. I know we're all learning a lot more this morning about edible flowers with Erin calling in live direct from Ireland this morning. So do stay with us. Break time for Biz Talk Radio. Brian Main, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox, thank you for tuning in and supporting Garden America. All righty, we are back, and for those on Biz Talk Radio, this is the final segment of hour number one, and you'll have news coming up top of the hour. We are back at 6 minutes after. Hopefully your market does carry us, and the rest of us on Facebook, we just keep on cruising right along. We do welcome your questions and your comments, and again, this is Garden America. John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox. I'm Brian Main. Back to Tiger, back to Erin.
Yeah, and we were chatting with Erin Bunting, the co-author of The Edible Flower, before the break. And Erin was just talking about some of the health benefits of some of the flowers to be able to incorporate them into your meal. And you were mentioning calendula, usually an orange-yellow flower, right?
Yeah. And you know, it's a great, it's actually used in lots of like skin creams and things like that. It's supposed to be really good, both topically and when you eat it for kind of your skin, or for, you know, if you have sort of dry skin and that kind of thing as well.
Oh.
So it's a great one, and it also has lots of other compounds that are just generally really good for your health. It's one of the ones that's been used kind of historically forever as a kind of a medicine. I think back to like Roman times.
Wow.
But I mean, I also just think having a whole variety in your diet, and one of the things that we cover in the book is we have a recipe for what we call a grand salade, which is a kind of a name from like old salads that were made in like 16th century, 15th, 16th century houses in Europe, in the UK, and there's lots of recipes, old recipes that talk about these grand salades, which was gathering basically as many different ingredients as they could from the gardens. They would have had these kind of grand gardens, walled gardens, and armies of servants to go out and gather things, and then they would have made these kind of elaborate salads, which had beautiful kind of multi-tiered dishes, and they were eating all sorts of different flowers and pickled vegetables and salad leaves and things like that. And we've tried to recreate that in our book and done a salad with as many ingredients as possible in it. And I just think that it's just interesting. You're exploring new flavors, but you're also bringing in all those kind of new nutrients into your diet that you might not otherwise, you know, micronutrients that might not otherwise be accessing.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like each bite would almost be very different, you know, when you're mixing all of that stuff together. What a fun way to do it. So I did post the book for people to be able to get on Amazon.com. You do recommend, you know, you guys do have the book in a lot of good cookbook shops, you know, or small bookshops, so people can shop locally. Look for the book, The Edible Garden, and
The Edible Flower.
Edible Flower, sorry. And do you guys have anything coming up in the near future you want to make the listeners aware of, or?
Oh my goodness! Well, if you're traveling to Northern Ireland, come and visit us. We run some lovely supper clubs, which are kind of pop-up dining events. We run those about every month, a couple of nights, and we cook with loads of amazing things in the garden. Our next event, well, we've got one coming up next weekend, but the one after that is our summer solstice event. So we'll be doing 6 nights over the kind of summer solstice period towards the end of June, and cooking with lots of flowers and what's best in the garden at kind of that moment in time.
Awesome.
A lot of our listeners are posting that we should take a garden tour to Ireland, and it sounds like we should visit Erin for sure if we do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, it's so beautiful here. I mean, like, I love living in Ireland, and like, yeah, you should definitely come. There's some really beautiful gardens here as well.
Cool. Well, Erin, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. I know it's, what is it, about 5 p.m. your time now?
Yes, it's kind of 4:30 here, so I'm just going to go and round my children up for their dinner. So, yeah.
Good. Well, thank you very much. Have a good evening, and hopefully we'll talk to you again soon. Take care.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Erin. John, when would be the best time to visit Ireland? Springtime, March, April, May, this time of year?
Never been to Ireland.
Well, wow. That surprises me.
Why?
Yeah?
I thought you'd been almost everywhere in Europe. and especially Ireland. Didn't you go to England and Scotland at some point?
We did do England and Scotland. Do you have me turned off?
No, you're on.
Oh, okay.
No, we can hear you.
hear
I
himself
just
in
see
his
you
head.
panicking over there.
No, I'm looking at
pushing.
the levels and everything and making sure that you're
Oh.
where you should be. That's all. No, you're good. We can hear you.
Yeah, Scotland was probably one of the most interesting botanical places I've ever visited.
Really?
It was spectacular, and a lot of the plant hunters were from Scotland.
What time of the year did you go?
We went in the end of May.
Okay.
So you still had to. I wore my snowboarding jacket the whole time I was there.
I would imagine in the summertime at the peak, it doesn't get. I mean, if they hit 80, that's a heat wave in Ireland.
Well, there's
yeah.
a Scottish comedian that said that we have two seasons in Scotland: winter and July.
Yeah. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, there was some interest, Ireland 2024 maybe, and at least we have a connection over there.
Right? Yeah.
I'll have to
it's
talk to
fun.
you about trips afterwards because in the last 2 weeks, I've had 3 people ask me if we could resurrect our trip to Slovenia
Oh,
to
yeah.
the International Wildflower
Except
Festival.
that we had planned it for something that takes place every 10 years.
No. That was something else.
Okay.
That was the Floriade.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And Floriade was in Holland.
Well, yeah, that would be nice too, right? We have to have enough interest though. That's the thing.
Well, we were all set till COVID hit.
Yep.
Yeah.
And anyway, I don't know. Is COVID over?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the flu. It's got pockets of people getting it, but for the most part, I think we're good to go if we could resurrect that. And again, we do appreciate your feedback, be it on Facebook or be it emails to John, those on BizTalk Radio. Someplace you'd like to go with us or think we should go. We're talking about Ireland, resurrecting Slovenia, so just let us know.
My brother online wants to know when I took up snowboarding.
Yeah, right.
You don't have to snowboard to wear a jacket.
To wear a snowboard.
You know what?
jacket.
Now,
Well,
he
most
just
people
ruined.
just call it a jacket, then, John.
Right.
He just ruined it though because John, I wore my snowboarding jacket, and I'm picturing John going down the slopes, just cutting the ice.
Yeah.
As he
Cutting the
shreds,
ice.
his
Shreds
way down the hill.
tube.
So
I used to be a novice skier, and I could tell you horror stories about skiing,
Oh goodness! Right.
but not now. We'll save that for another show.
I skied when I was in college at NAU. We weren't supposed to because the hockey players, they said you're going to get hurt.
Yeah,
Don't do it.
I mean, that's almost guaranteed.
Oh, we did it anyway.
Yeah.
It's
I think
like
one guy did get hurt.
shortstops, you say, hey, don't ride motorcycles. You're going to get hurt.
But
It's a good inside joke, John. Really.
But I love that they told the hockey players to don't do it because you're going to get hurt. When you just play hockey, you get hurt.
Well, yeah, but then it takes us out of the action. See, so I think there were some restrictions put on some of the sports teams in that regard. Hey, it is break time. I'm sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead, Tiger,
No,
real
go
quick.
ahead. Break.
Okay, that can wait till the other side, maybe.
Yes.
Okay, going to take a break for our friends on BizTalk Radio. News coming up top of the hour. As I mentioned, we are back at 6 minutes after. We do hope you carry our show. If you want to watch us live every week and take part, simply go to our Facebook page, Garden America Radio Show. You can watch us live. You can also go to our YouTube channel, Garden America Radio Show. And just about every podcasting form there is, digital streaming, you can find Garden America. We are back after the news, back at 6 minutes after for you on BizTalk Radio, quicker on Facebook Live. Stay with us. Hey, welcome to Garden America. If you are tuned in on BizTalk Radio, this is hour number 2, so we welcome you. If you want to catch up on our show, you can go to our YouTube channel this afternoon, Garden America Radio Show, and catch everything from the beginning to the very end. So no reason to miss any Garden America show. With that in mind, it is story time with John Begnaski.
I've mentioned many times on this show about how much history is included in plants, just plant names. Here we learned about Ned Kelly today from the Grevillea that was named after him, and I had never heard of Ned Kelly. And
I'd heard the name, but didn't
Really?
associate him with anything, really.
Yeah.
I would, if I had to bet, I'd say he was, out of the Wild West. Oh, Ned Kelly.
really, I would have had no idea.
Yeah. Anyway,
But, whoops.
a little notification there, John? Yes, we are live on the
A
air.
little text from somebody that said, if we do Slovenia and Northern Italy, count them in.
Okay. All right.
Where was I? Oh, my story.
Your story, Ned Kelly.
Yeah.
So roses being one of my specialties, I've learned so much history just by looking up the name of roses. You know, I think I went into detail about Fleur Coles. And there's a rose that is called Catherine Loker.
And who is she?
Catherine Loker was the heiress to the Star-Kissed Tuna company.
Okay.
And was a philanthropist that donated to a lot of colleges in the San Diego area, and I think even outside of San Diego. But on 9/11, I think we've told this story before, but on 9/11, Bruce and Sharon Asakawa, who we used to do the radio show with, were in San Francisco, and all flights were grounded, so there was no way that they could get back to San Diego by airplane, so they had to take a train. So they got on the train, and they were sitting next to a woman, and they were talking to her during the trip down, and she asked what Bruce and Sharon did. And, you know, they said Bruce was a landscape architect. They did a radio show and so forth. And the woman said, oh, I had a rose named after me. It's Catherine Loker. So they met Catherine Loker and came back, told me the story. And since that time, I met someone in Del Mar who we both, all three of us know, I think, who was a friend of Catherine Loker's. And yesterday at the Huntington Arboretum, I was looking at the roses and talking to Tom Caruth, who is the curator of the Rose Garden, and then looking at how nice the roses were. By the way, if you go to the Huntington sale, the absolute nicest roses I've ever seen. They were spectacular. 5-gallon cans. I only bought one, though.
Really? You're getting a lot better, aren't you?
But a gentleman came up to me who worked there, and he said, I saw you talking to Tom. You probably don't need any help with the roses, do you? And I said, no, I've got 1,500 in cans. I really shouldn't be getting any more. And he goes, have you ever seen the Catherine Loker rose? Oh. And I told him the story that I just told you.
This is just coincidence. He brings her name up.
And so I told him the story about Bruce and Sharon that I just told you guys. And his comment was, and I was in Oceanside at the train to pick her up.
Oh my!
He said
Are you kidding?
No, he said she took that train so many times, and I always picked her up in Oceanside. And told me how they were great friends, what a nice woman she was. And he said her husband was an actor and was in a lot of like dark mystery films.
Okay.
Things
Anybody
like
we
that.
know of? Or?
He said you can see him in movies. I can't remember his name. So anyway, and I guess she ended up dying the year after Bruce and Sharon met her. But just an amazing woman. And again, if not for the name of that rose, I wouldn't know any of this information.
And everything just connected with each other.
Yeah.
Was that 3 degrees of separation or whatever they call that?
Right. Yeah. And this guy lived next door to Kevin Bacon.
Oh, look at that.
No,
No, I'm just kidding.
That was good, though. That's good. Yeah, did you know that Peter Lorre died in squalor?
Yes, you told me that. It's not true, by the way.
Nobody will ever challenge that. If you tell, they'll just say, "Oh, that's too bad."
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Peter Lorre died in squalor.
Now, Carla thought that Ned Kelly was an Australian musician.
I was looking for if somebody answered it because, you know, you mentioned the Ned Kelly, and I had asked if they knew who Ned Kelly was, but Kevin said he thinks somebody did a film.
He thought Mick Jagger might have done something years ago.
But not necessarily who Ned Kelly was. But, I mean, Ned Kelly was the, like, Australian, you know, Billy the Kid.
He was a bad boy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, kind of Wild West gangster bad guy kind of a thing. And, yeah, Ned Kelly.
He was a bushwhacker.
Bush Ranger.
Oh.
Bush Ranger. Or something, yeah, whatever they call him.
Hey,
but yeah, Bush from Australia, and since it's a grevillea, it makes perfect sense.
You know, Carla mentioned this, and I want to bring it up because I've thought this, and I probably should have said it a long time ago. But she said, Tiger, please take this as a compliment.
Uh-oh.
Your
You read
interview
this.
skills just get better and better.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't read that one.
You keep doing something long enough, you get better, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, to the point where I've really been impressed, and I
Yeah.
should.
You know what
thank you.
this means?
something.
It takes the pressure off John and I. We can just sit and listen to it,
Yeah.
just like everybody else, like those on the radio.
Oh, I
those
never
on
want to
Facebook.
say anything because I'm so interested in what he's saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Get
Yeah.
lost in it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So people would want to know how much research you do prior to.
Oh,
Well, he looked in the book, which
Yeah.
is a lot more
You do-
than I
you do-
probably would have
You
done.
do just enough to get the interview going,
yeah.
just enough to know what questions to ask, but not too much because you might assume that the listeners already know those things that you may or may not ask.
Right. And that's the hard thing about balancing, in a discussion, right? Because
Right.
in our we have a range of people that are listening, and I try to pick out some things that people would be interested in, but I also try to identify that talking about pansies being edible that's normal,
Right.
Let's find out some other stuff that
Yeah.
people don't know about, trying to keep it interesting.
And you want the guest to tell their story. All
Yep.
you want to do is just guide them down.
Yep.
Right.
So-
And if you're talking about something that you have a lot of knowledge of, then again, you might assume so does the listener.
Yeah.
But they don't.
But they don't.
So even if you know the answer, sometimes you do want to, ask that question to the person that you're interviewing. So
Yeah.
that is good. Good feedback.
Yeah, Gina
That's what
said
that
she
is.
was thinking the same thing.
Aw, thank you guys. I
So
had fun.
it's amazing how many people are thinking good things about you, but never say it.
You don't even know it.
Oh goodness. Oh man. Man, so we've got a nice little break in the weather here for us. It's actually sunny and warm, a little bit of rain possibly next week.
Rain next
It's
week.
going to be
maybe?
cold again next week, right? Back into the 60s,
Back in the 60s.
which I'm
yeah.
really happy about
I am
because
too.
I'm going to be in Shreveport, and I hope my roses are alive when I get home.
Well, now who's home to take care of your roses?
No one.
No one?
No.
Wait a minute. So they just sit there. That's almost abuse.
Do they ever just leave? Do you have a fence?
They leave, but
They leave.
they leave because they're brown when I get back, and they go in the trash.
So I think what you're saying is with nice cool weather, the chances of them not being watered is not really going to hurt.
Right, and our friend Susan from Vista is offered to come over Saturday and water, which is really nice.
So is there
So
some
that plus the cool weather, I think they'll be okay.
is there some big like long hose we just pull out?
Mini,
Yes.
Mini big long hoses.
Well, 3.
yeah.
I've got it down to 3. In a matter, now that I'm thinking of this, I got to take care of my personal business
Right,
here.
right.
But in June, I'm going to be in Europe for 2 weeks, and I want to ask you how practical it would be to set up irrigation on all my roses while I'm gone.
Drip or just spray?
No, just sprayers.
Oh, super easy.
Really?
Yeah.
Because if I could do that, I would be so happy.
Yeah.
So it would just
And-
spray, and enough of the spray would then soak
Well,
in eventually.
And I mean, we can either do
I need just
temporary.
overheads. Yeah,
and
just
we can even do temporary ones where we just connect it to a line and
Yeah,
you can position them
right.
strategic. Those ones on pedestals
Right.
that you just get and you'll just have it run for 15, 20 minutes.
And it'll get
Right.
like most of them, or
Yeah,
different
it's
set
just
up
like
different
rain.
sections.
It's just like rain.
Just like
Yeah,
rain.
set
Well,
up
why wouldn't
different
you just do
sections.
that anyway?
Because he likes to be hands-on.
No, I
and-
get that, but I mean, in the future when you do leave, just resort to that.
Yeah.
I don't want to make it too easy because everything's supposed to go in the ground.
Yeah, exactly. If
Yeah,
you-
that's
if
true.
you-
And I started putting them in the ground, and I can't believe how great they're doing.
I was
Tiger
gonna-
set up drip.
We got to take a break because being at your property is like walking through a nursery.
I
for
got to
sure.
tell you the good job Tiger's
Okay.
doing in
We're
landscaping.
going to take
when
a
we
break.
come back.
Biz Talk Radio Facebook Live. Back after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. No messages on Facebook, Tiger. John, messages on Biz Talk Radio. Do stay with us. Okay, we are back from the break, and yes, indeed, I double-checked messages on Biz Talk Radio, not Facebook Live. We just cruised through the weekend together. on this Saturday, every Saturday. So thank you for joining us. By the way, questions, comments, we are open for business on the comment page on Facebook.
Yeah.
We've excuse me, we mentioned this before, but if you're in the Southern California area and you need any kind of landscape work done, give Tiger a call because he does amazing
Well, now,
work.
how busy are you? Do you get to the point where you say, you know what, no jobs until 2 or 3 months from now?
He has a lottery.
We
He
have-
throws all the bids or
Yeah.
jobs into a hat, and
And
if
then
you're
pull
lucky
one.
enough to get pulled.
You know what I should have done when I was there? I should have taken more video of your roses in that whole area.
We
Sort
should
of-
have done videos, but you said you had to leave.
Well, I did have to leave, but that would be good to kind of like
We need some
So-
before and
so,
afters.
you know,
But before
chronicle your yard.
I think you've been taking pictures of the whole procedure. It's going to be really fun to look back a year or two from now and the building of the house, the landscape.
I have a picture problem though,
Yeah,
because in my mind,
you took photos and then you didn't.
no, taking photos to me equates to using up all your film,
Oh.
and
You know how many pictures I have on my phone?
Of nothing.
Over 3,000.
Yeah.
And I've got 256 gigabytes of memory.
well, I have 3,000 pictures of roses on my phone, probably
Well, you could have
Maybe
1,500.
10 with people in them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
no, just
but-
keep taking it. And you're on the cloud too, right? You have a cloud account?
He's in a cloud, but
I don't know.
but John had mentioned he put some of his roses in the ground, and it's gonna transition to some extent as far as John's effort, because as they've been in cans this whole time, yes, it's difficult to water, but it's been, I think, easier to maintain, to keep. They are restricted in their growth and all of that. Well, in the ground, as you mentioned, they're taking off. They're starting to grow. They're starting to look really good. And now you have this maintenance, pruning, controlling that needs to take place versus before it was just you had to water them.
Is there more danger, though, once they get into the ground of critters and things
yeah.
like that?
Gophers.
Right. Yeah, gophers is a huge problem. In the hill where I've been planting the roses has had squirrels and I've been putting out traps and doing the best that I can. But some of the roses in containers, I don't want to put them in anything more than a 5-gallon container.
Yeah.
Because they don't need 115-gallon container roses that
Right.
are going to have to go in the ground. But some of the roses, when they're mature, could be maybe 15 feet tall by 10 feet wide.
Right.
And they don't last. They've been years in a container, and I can't keep them much longer. So those are the ones I've tried to get in the ground, and those are the ones that, of course,
And
are
how about
taking off.
spacing once they're in the ground so they're not crowding each other
I
out?
usually put them too close together,
I
but
was
I've
gonna
been
s-
trying to space
Right,
them.
right.
I was going to say the area that he started planting, I'm looking at it and I'm seeing what
Right.
he's putting.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, ooh.
Hey, speaking of critters,
for a guy who doesn't want to get out here and maintain these roses.
speaking of critters, there's a YouTube video of a rat. Shows the guy, he sets up a trap, and then, a certain amount of time goes by, and it's dark, but he has you can see it's got like a night camera. You can see because he's got the security on. The rat walks up to the trap, sniffs around, turns around, goes out of the frame of the camera, comes back, and he has a stick in his mouth. He takes the stick, and he activates the trap,
Yeah.
and the trap snaps, and he grabs the food.
Smart rat.
That's a smart rat.
yeah.
Dirty?
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's like, you're kidding me.
Well,
he assessed it, he got his stick, and he set the trap off.
And so if you had a deer come in and start eating your roses
Oh, yeah.
or some kind of animal, a lot of times if they eat the plant, it'll grow back. Gophers are way different problem because they're eating the roots.
Right.
So you could always just get a couple deer if things get out of hand and let them loose in the yard. Or no, you risk losing whole plants.
There's no deer in your area, is there?
There are some deer out there, but not really in my area.
Yeah.
More Duluth, Camp Pendleton area.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to this story about Tiger putting in this drip irrigation. I was going to ask if you could, because I'm really impressed. All my experiences with drip have been horrible. but you're using a product called Netafim,
Mm-hmm.
and I wondered maybe you could tell our listeners a little about that.
Yeah, I mean, so nowadays, the Netafim product is a brand. Rainbird has a, soaker tube just like it, and Hunter does as well. But it's a smart soaker system. So, back in the day, it was a black tubing that was kind of perforated,
Right.
that water just seeped out of.
Right.
And it would eventually clog. Sometimes it'd get little breaks in it, and it just was never a perfect thing. Well, they liked that concept because it soaked to the ground. So they developed these smart soaker tubings that inside the tube, they put a little pressure regulator in the holes. And also it's almost as if water can come out, but things can't go back into the line. So it prevents any kind of clogging or debris buildup or anything like that. Because
So if you buried it, you wouldn't get dirt going
into it. And the reason why was because they spaced these holes, depending on the one that you buy, every 18 inches, every 12 inches. So that way, because, if you plant plants 2 feet apart and that tube, that little hole gets clogged up, it wouldn't water the plant anymore. Mm-hmm. So they developed these systems. And the nice thing about it is that you use it just like you did the old soaker tubing, and you just snake them through your beds where you have plants, as long as the little holes are near where the root systems are. And you actually really don't even want the holes at the base of the plant, because then you get root rot issues, and you just want it to soak the ground.
Because it wouldn't dry up. It would stay wet then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, sure.
And so you space it a little bit away from the plants. And the thing is that you have to run this system for, at minimum 45 minutes to get a good soak. So, you're just soaking the ground. And once the plants are established, they find the water, and they're going to grow just wonderfully with this soaking system where you don't have runoff. You're not having a lot of evaporation. And, the other thing that's nice for John is if he changes where a plant is or puts in a new plant, all he does, there's no glue. It's you cut the tube, you put in a T, you put in a coupler, and it's what we call pressure coupling.
Sounds like a PVC pipe.
But there's no glue. So it's a flexible tubing that you just use these pressure couplings for, and you can then create a new line, and then you add another 10 feet of line.
And you can make it go with those T anywhere you want it to go, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And then you kind of can either end it or tee it back into your line.
I noticed some of your guys, when they were installing, they ran 2 lines side by side, so it would, if there was a row of roses, it would cover both sides. Mm-hmm. But then if there was a rose off to the side, they ran a circle around it.
Yeah, exactly.
A couple of questions. We got to take a break.
Yeah.
Because I think Veronica's asking, would that soaker work with raised beds and large pots?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll address that. Got to take a break for Biz Talk Radio. This is Garden America. Brian Main, John Bagnasco, talking about Palafox. Back after these Biz Talk Radio messages. If you're on Facebook Live, that's a quick break. Not even 10 seconds. Welcome back. Those on Biz Talk Radio. Again, so,
I thought I'd have time to catch my breath, and I just barely got to it.
And we're back again, but let's address get Veronica's question about raised beds and pots with the soaker you're talking about.
Yeah, so the number one thing I want to mention regarding the drip line, Netafim line, is that you need to regulate the pressure when installing these lines, because there's no glue. You're not hard fitting these parts. And also because those little emitters, when there's too much pressure in the line, they actually kind of close themselves off. When you install these systems, you need to put a pressure regulator filter at the beginning. So where your valve is,
right,
it's very easy to just install a pressure regulator filter.
You set that at the very beginning, and you don't touch it, right?
Right. The pressure regulator just makes sure that from your valve, it's only maybe 30 or 40 psi of water going through the line. And then the filter is just a wire mesh filter that helps catch any debris in a line before it goes into this tubing. So that way the tubing doesn't get built up.
And then you clean that out every now and then?
Oh,
very
rarely. I mean, in a situation where somebody has a well, you need to clean it out more often. But usually with city water lines, there's very little debris that goes in through it. But so that's the number one important thing that you need to make sure when you're, whether it's a raised bed or large pot. Raised beds, people use this all the time because it's a wonderful way to just lay a grid over a raised bed. You then do your planting, and it just soaks in the raised bed. And since usually raised beds are so small, it's an easy way to just soak a bed without having pop-up sprinklers or little micro sprayers or anything like that in the bed. So yes, it is a very common, and you can see a lot of tutorials for Netafim and raised beds.
Somebody wants you to spell the name of the hose.
Netafim. Netafim.
Netafim.
Yeah.
Netafim.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, what about if you're going down a hill? Because where you installed it for me, it's a pretty steep hill.
Yeah, and so what
Talking
will
about
happen?
runoff?
Yeah, what will happen is, people don't realize it, but in the line there could be, I don't know, maybe 5-10 gallons of water, and if it's on a slope, when at the end of the run cycle, all that water will drain out at the bottom. So you get this very wet, boggy area at the bottom, and then you kind of don't have it, and it's got to fill back up before everything starts getting watered too. So then at the top, you get a lot of dry plants, and then at the bottom, you get a lot of very wet plants. So we put little checks in the system to keep the water at certain levels. So once the pressure drops below, let's say, 10 psi in the line, that check just shuts off a section, and it keeps the water contained to certain areas. So, we install that. And then also you want to do a flush kind of at the end. But with raised beds and pots, I think the biggest thing that people run a challenge in with pots is running the line outside of the pot and into the pot. A lot of people don't like that. But if you start from scratch, you can run that tubing through one of the drain holes in the pots at the bottom.
Sure.
And then you can just run it straight up. And then now at the surface of your pot, you can put a ring, like John had mentioned. You put a ring just in the pot, and then it just soaks the pot. And again, there you don't have overspray. It just is soaking the soil.
It's a controlled environment.
Yeah.
Now, is there an app on your phone? Could I adjust the pressure and all that with this hose you're talking about?
No, nothing like that. No.
Okay.
The pressure regulators that you install are set. You buy them already
and you don't want them to change because they're going to regulate how much pressure so that the pressure's not too much.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So, those are all set. There is a certain distance that, a certain amount of line that maxes out an area. But I will say in my experience, that takes a lot. Like that's like a commercial job where you're dealing with, a large area where you would max out a pressure on a drip line because they don't need a lot of pressure to operate. So, and they're actually designed to operate low pressure.
And when you start putting these roses in the ground, how's your soil? Good soil? Do you have
the area where these roses are going? It's excellent soil.
Good soil.
Yeah.
But my property goes between excellent soil and rock.
So you have to,
John,
right?
Oh, you were there when John showed us this hole that he filled up with water a day before, and it still looked like the water had not even gone down.
And I just planted that whole area, but I had to use a jackhammer.
Yeah.
So do you have to do much amending? Do you think to get everything?
No, I didn't do any amending. But Tiger. My thought was, do I need to put drainage in here since the water's not gone away? And Tiger said, no, just, jackhammer out long areas so there's somewhere for the water to go so it's not going to stay in a straight hole.
Yeah.
And so far, the plants are doing really well.
And I think actually, overall, it's going to be better for your yard because it'll keep a lot of the moisture because it gets so hot and dry out there.
Yeah, exactly.
That, the plants are going to... The plants that John, aside from roses, are going to just be, such good hardy plants in his area that they're going to naturally start to reach out for that water.
And they'll take up the water as they need it.
Yeah,
right?
And they're going to break up the rock and amend the soil by themselves through the growing process. That I think that you're going to have plants that just take off, and especially some of his trees. I think they're going to. I'm really impressed with that. Cashmere cypress that you got and planted. 2 years ago was that, or more? Maybe more because this was like
no. It was not even a full 2 years.
Really?
Yet. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Like a year and a half.
Doing very well, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tiger picked that up for me from our buddy Keith in Point Loma.
and
Oh,
it was
really?
it was a big tree at the time, but now, I mean,
Well, it was in a 15-gallon can.
How deep did you bury it when you planted it? How far down?
It's the same level.
yeah, just flush.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't want to ever plant trees deeper than the container because you get rot around the base of the tree. And Lila wants to know, Tiger, if you put the drip in before or after the plants.
Oh, so this is where some people will have different thoughts. And here's my thought process. And I'll explain this all the way through because I think people that are gardeners will side with me on this. So I usually, because drip is something I just do on the surface. For instance, John's area, we just ran the drip tubing through and we used staples to hold it in place, yard staples. And
I'm just going to put mulch over the top to cover it up.
To cover it up.
Sure.
Exactly. Because I do that for a number of reasons. Number one is it allows you to just lay out how you want your yard, and then you modify the irrigation system to whatever design you want, right? So I put it in after for that reason, because I want to know where the plants are so I can know where to put the lines. I don't trench the lines in either, meaning I don't bury them because I do it afterwards. And I don't bury them also because I feel that with this product, it's best to know where your lines are because you're going to make changes. You're going to dig up areas eventually. And it's very easy just to lift up and move if you need to plant a new plant or to modify it or to fix a break. I mean, there's nothing worse than working with Netafim because it's not a glue product. You kind of need more flexibility when repairing it. When you drive a shovel through Netafim that's been buried in the ground, you have to dig up a big area, and then you have to kind of like splice it. When it's on the ground, all you do is cut it, pull two ends together, and it's done. But when it's buried, that repair is so much more difficult. But some people say, oh, I don't want to see it. They like the fact that it's underground a little bit.
Yeah, but you can cover it. Like John uses compost.
And that's what I see. I usually tell people we put a mulch over the top of it, and then they go, well, the mulch goes away. I'm like, yeah, but you should be replacing mulch every year and a half or so. Anyways,
you're going to get an argument every time, no matter, even if you give them a good solution. And I like that solution.
And don't call Tiger if you want to argue. Call someone else.
But I know everybody wants it to look neat, like there's nothing under there. You want it to look natural, but you can still use the compost because don't assume everything's going to stay the same.
Yeah.
You're going to want to change things. Things are going to break. Things are, over the years, things are going to be different. So you want to have access.
And also, it's funny because we used to not do this, but it's becoming much and more common of a practice. With the lines on the surface, let's say there's mulch. You can move away the mulch from the line, turn the system on, and you can see it's running. It's just a little drip, but you see it's running, right? When it's buried, you turn the system on. There's no way to know if it's running or not, right? Yeah. So we have to install what we call
except by the leaves turning yellow on the plant
and just kilting over it. But we install these little things called flags that are just little sprinklers that you install in the line, and then it pops up. So when the line turns on, this little sprinkler pops up, and it just has a little yellow top on it. And that just makes people aware that the line is on. But it still doesn't tell you whether the area that you're concerned with is actually watering.
We got to take a break. We have one more segment coming up. And then Carla would like you to spell the name once again. She didn't catch it.
I'll post it on Facebook, but I will share it.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. We're going to take a break for Biz Talk Radio. One more segment coming up. Stay with us. And we are back. It is our final segment on this Saturday morning when this show is being recorded. Although if you go back and listen to us on various platforms, streaming, digital, whatever, you could be listening in the middle of the night. So we do appreciate that. Many ways to...
No, not the middle of the night.
Why not?
The middle?
Sure, why not?
You should be asleep.
Yeah, some people can't sleep. Insomnia. You get up and you listen to the show.
And that puts you right to bed.
That puts you right back to sleep again.
All right.
And you can also watch our shows on our YouTube channel, Garden America Radio Show. We also encourage you to go to our website a couple of 2 or 3 times a week if you would for us. It does help us. GardenAmerica.com. And Carla says thanks. Just like that, Tiger.
All right. Yeah, did you say Netafim? Sorry, I was typing Netafim and sharing it.
It's up that you just put. There it is, right there.
Yeah,
So,
Netafim.
right. It's on the on our Facebook page right now. On the comments section, you can see it, and a direct link to the website.
Yeah, and then so all brands have their own little version of it. So I'm going to share.
I think the Rainbird one was, my experience was it's not quite as supple as the Netafim.
The plastic is different.
Right.
So I'll share because the Netafim product has been around. I don't know this for a fact, but it's kind of like the first I feel like I remember working with. Like even before Rainbird, I feel Netafim had their product out. So anyways, there's nowadays there's different ones. Hunter, Rainbird, Netafim has one. Even that brand you find at box stores, Dig has its own. But I will say though that the higher end brands like Rainbird and Netafim, the product is better. The plastic is better. They last longer.
Don't go cheap.
Yeah.
Now, people have been asking about using it in containers.
Yeah.
And my question would be, you can't use the drip to go to the container. Right? Because, so what kind of line do you use till you get to the container?
So they sell a line, the same material, but with no holes in it.
Okay.
And that's how you make transitions. Like, even if you're planting and maybe you have a
same
walkway.
connector, right?
Yeah, it's the same connector. It's the same everything, except they sell this without any holes in it. And a lot of times they'll use that for drip where you plug in holes, and little emitters off of it.
Right.
And you can do that. So, with that little note, they sell emitters that put out different amounts of water. So if you wanted to kind of match it up, you could buy emitters that are the same amount that your Netafim line is putting out, and then that way all the plants are getting the same amount of water. Or you can buy emitters that get more water out for plants that maybe want more water. So like as an example, John's roses maybe need 15 minutes with this watering system. Well, in that same line, he can put a plant that needs a lot more water with an emitter that has more water coming out. So you're still running it for 15 minutes, but rather than the plant getting a gallon like the roses are, this plant is getting 2 gallons of water because of the emitter he put on it. But back to your answer, John, they sell tubing that has no holes in it to make those transitions.
Did you see Kevin's question?
I did. I was going to get to that next.
Okay.
But Carla also wanted to know if the tubing is going into the hole in the pot, is it going to kink?
So they sell elbows and tees and different things like that.
Okay.
And also, but you do have to be very careful with is clogging up the hole. The tubing that you're putting.
The drainage hole.
The drainage hole.
Yeah.
So you might want to put an additional hole in your pot, use a ceramic drill bit. You can drill out another hole. But, some of those drainage holes in pots are kind of small.
Right.
This tubing is about a 1/2 inch.
It's going to be bigger than most holes in pots.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
Yeah. So,
Well, not necessarily.
No, I would say most,
Really?
but it definitely could clog up a hole.
Okay.
When you start thinking about roots and dirt and stuff that could create drainage problems. Yeah.
Kevin wants to know how you lubricate a sticky pop-up that won't pop up anymore.
Well. Gang, that was very appropriate, Kevin.
Yeah. Oh, so the part that's the sticky part in pop-up sprinklers, they're usually white. They have a white washer that's in the head of the sprinkler. And if you replace that, usually that plastic has become old and cracked and hard. And so you want to replace it with a newer kind of plastic. But I will say most of the time that's even not the case. Most of the time that pop-up has gotten buildup of little
Salt.
rocks and debris
Sediment
and
and
things
stuff
like
like
that.
that.
So a good cleaning usually is all it needs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
That's a great question, though. I'd like to use that question every week.
But pop-ups aren't that expensive either.
No, I
Come
mean,
on, Kevin.
yeah,
Just
you can
break down and go buy another one.
Well, and then the cool thing, people don't even think about this, and then it's the same with valves. Is okay for the pop-up, you don't have to dig the whole thing out and replace it.
Right.
They have what's called the body, which is just the outer part of it that's in the dirt.
Yeah.
You can just take it off, take out the whole innards,
And just replace it, right?
and just replace the innards parts without any digging, without any effort.
Right.
It's just unscrewing, no tools necessary. You can replace your pop-up sprinkler with the same one so it works better.
Yeah, there's no cutting, no glue.
No anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very easy to replace those parts. And like you say, John, I mean, you buy the whole sprinkler for $6 kind of a thing, maybe. And the same with valves. A lot of people get all worried about changing valves. A lot of times it's just a matter of replacing the top part of the valve. The bottom part is a solid plastic piece. If it's cracked or broken, you have a problem. You have to replace the whole valve.
We got to close the show.
What?
Wow.
I know we're
We were
getting
just
on the
getting
sprinkler.
going, I feel.
We're going to do a whole show on sprinkler systems and valves and teas and composting and John's garden and roses and
That
how
used
good
to
his
be
soil
my
is.
least favorite subject, was anything to do with irrigation.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I'm into it now. It sounds kind of cool. I
Yeah.
like it. Hey, that's going to do it. Thank you so much, those who are tuned in on Biz Talk Radio, those on Facebook Live. Questions, comments every single weekend. We love them right there on Facebook. So until next week, enjoy the rest of your weekend. John is off next week. He's in Shreveport.
Right.
He's on the road on assignment.
The National Convention of the American Rose Society, I'll be conducting an auction, and I'll be on a breeders panel.
Beautiful. Safe travels. And I think it's going to be a family affair next week, Tiger, right?
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see who's
get
going to
more
be coming
info
in for John.
Yeah.
In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a great, safe week, and we'll do it again next week. I'm Brian Main, John Begnasco, Tiger Palafox. Thank you for tuning in to Garden America. Take care.